Hi, my name is Renee and I'm at Pike Creek Farm, and welcome to my Saturday. This is a busy day. I am canning pickle relish, which I'm doing a video on that, and pickled beets. And the pickled beet recipe is actually one of my mom's. If you've been on my channel before, I have this big plastic bag full of all kinds of old vintage recipes, and then I have this smaller one that my mom gave me last August. My mom's 86, that has some of her canning recipes. Some I wouldn't use because they're not safe by today's standards, but I can adapt them. One of my favorite things that she would pickle is pickled beets. Veva's Pickled Beets, V-E-V-A. Boy, when the paper towels came out, everyone's misspelled her name. But these beets are so good, and she kind of tweaked the recipe for the spices that are in the brine, and I just love it. So come along with me today while we have a canning frenzy and try to get things done in the kitchen. It's the season, isn't it? Everything is coming in fast and furious from the gardens. So today is Veva's Pickled Beets. The recipe calls for 3 quarts of cooked beets, and she says small beets, but I didn't have small beets, so I have bigger ones, and they can be quartered up and made smaller to fit into the jars. I cooked these last night, and I'm going to peel the skins off. I just saved a step by washing them and doing that last night. And I do have a video on canning beets where I go through the whole process from the very beginning and how I take care of my beets from the garden and how to process them to the point of canning, how to clean them and cook them and then peel them. So I am going to peel these and put them into the sizes that I want for pickled beets. So once you cook beets, the skins just basically peel off. So I'm going to continue doing the beets, and I will bring you back. I have them all peeled, and now I'm going to cut them into the sizes I want to put in the pint jars. Helps if I do that, huh? So you can actually see. So if you prefer slices for your pickled beets, go ahead and do slices. I do slices for my regular beets that I can. I'm so excited for these. They're so pretty. They look so pretty in the jar. I don't think my husband will eat these, and I don't even care because I love them. They are all done. The next phase, I'm going to wash my hands first and get all this beet juice off. The next phase is going to be making the brine. I am going to make the brine for Veva's Pickled Beets. This is my mom's handwriting. Most in the family can't read it. So it's 2 cups of sugar. So I've already put 1.5 cups of water in this pan. And now we'll do 2 cups of sugar. This is a 1/2 cup measure, so. And then 3.5 cups of vinegar. White vinegar. You can use cider vinegar too. Mom used to use both. And you want to make sure it has the 5% acidity. So that was 2 cups. I need 1.5 cups more. There we go. And then I have a little mesh, muslin I should say, tea bag that you can reuse. I use this for my pickling spices. I got them on Amazon. You can use them for homemade teas. And in it, I have put 1 tablespoon of pickling spice, 2 bay leaves crushed up. Here's my pickling spice, the 2 bay leaves, half a teaspoon of dry mustard, and then 4 or 5 whole cloves. So I put 5 of those in there. I also added 4 peppercorns. My pickling spice didn't really have many peppercorns in it, so I added some peppercorns. So this I will tighten up and tie. And drop in there. And then it calls for 1/3 cup of horseradish. And you want to make sure that you use pure horseradish. That the only ingredients is horseradish and water and maybe some vinegar. You don't want it to have any mayonnaise in it. You don't want it to be like prepared where it has the mayonnaise in it. And I'm going to do mine a little heaping because I like the horseradish flavor. And the last ingredient is salt, and it's 1½ teaspoon of salt. I'm using, it's a ½ teaspoon measure, but I'm using kosher salt for this. And now we bring this to a simmer for 15 minutes. So I'm going to turn the heat up and get all this stuff off of the stove that I was using to show you. And so this will be the next ingredients just to get this brine ready. Then we pack the jars and put the brine on and water bath them. I got out my USDA Book of Home Canning and looked up pickled beets just to make sure how long they can them for. And I hope I have enough brine. Sometimes I double the brine. If I have to, I'll make more. The recommendation is to process these for 30 minutes in a boiling water canner. So it's longer than I assumed it would be like other pickles. So I'm glad I looked it up. So I'm going to add 1/8 teaspoon of pickle crisp to each jar. That is totally optional. I just like how it helps keep the pickles crisper. And then we will put the beets in. I was going to put them in the brine because I thought maybe they should be warm, but when I read the USDA, it said to cool the beets before you put them in the hot jars. So not cold, but there's one, and the brine will go to the 1/2 inch mark. Fill them up. Make sure there's no big pockets where you could put some. They always say fitting things into a canning jar is kind of like playing Tetris. So I'm going to grab a couple more jars from the dishwasher. Pickle crisp in each one. I might have more beets than what was needed, so I might have to make another batch of brine. Darn, that would be sad to have more beets than what I thought. And you don't want to press down and like jam the beets in there either. You just want them to fit in kind of tight but not smushed. I'm going to keep filling jars. I've ended up with 6 jars, if I can count. 6 jars. I had this one jar, it's an old jar that someone gave me. And when I go around, I don't know if I can show you, like it looks like there's a chip coming out. There's like a crack in that edge. And on the inside, I can feel it. So I am going to use this jar for like dry goods now because I'm afraid it, whether it's just an imperfection, there's a little chip there, or if it's actually something that will make it not seal. Because when I go around like this, it feels okay, but that is right on the inside. So I'm not going to risk it. It's important to always check your jars. So now we're going to fill the jars. And I have my debubbler. I have my lids all washed. These are 4 jar lids, which I've been using pretty much exclusively since January. And I have my rings. I have a cloth to wipe the rims. My canner, my hot water bath canner is on the stove with water heating up. So we're ready to go. Woohoo! You can see the horseradish. Now, if you're not a fan of horseradish, you can cut back on the amount or eliminate it. It doesn't make them hot, it gives them just a little zip. I would not call them spicy at all. Okay, let's debubble, make sure there's no big air pockets in there. And that kind of jiggles everything up, so we have to get it all back in there. The debubbler has measurements from 1 inch all the way to 1/4. So the 1/2 inch, and I could use a little more brine. It went down a little. Now we wipe the edge. You want to make sure that there's nothing on there, any debris that is going to prevent this flat lid from getting a good seal. Tighten it just till it's finger tight. Just don't crank it on. And then this will go in the canner. Beets are one thing that can really keep their color and look real pretty when they're canned. Some things fade. So I have 3 more jars after this that I will follow the same process. I'm filling the last jar, and there was plenty of brine. So I probably could have done 7 jars. Just thought I would share that so you know that it is enough. Now I might even can up. There's enough for brine to can up just the brine to use with some beets I have this winter if I want. The jars are all in there. I do have one that's just the brine. I put an empty jar in the middle just to make sure they don't tip over. And I just have to bring it up to a boil now and then set the timer. And I'll show you what a boil is. It's not just little pops, it's a full boil. canner is now to a full boil, so I'm going to set the timer for 30 minutes. My timer's gone off and I've turned off the burner, and I'm going to take the lid off and let it all settle down, and then I will raise the jars up. Sorry for the noise here. We have AC going and some fans, and it's pretty hot here today, and we're trying to not let the canning get the inside too warm. I'm removing the beets, and if there's any water on the top, just let it go. Just take the jars out, keep them level, and put them on your surface, your mat or your towel that you're going to let these cool on. You don't touch them until 12 to 24 hours. Good morning. Here are the beets from yesterday. They all sealed. And there's the 1 jar of brine. I can add to other vegetables or beets later on, and if I go to make more beets. I have the brine made, but they turned out really pretty. I love the color. But in that one you can see all the horseradish. That one ended up with all the leftover horseradish. So that one might be a little spicier. Thank you for stopping by Pike Creek Farm. If you like this video and want to see more videos on canning, push the like button and subscribe button.